Welcome to the Halliwell Manor. I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And we are here to discuss Season 6, Episode 6 of Charmed.
My Three Witches.
Okay, is that a reference to the TV show My Three Sons?
It's barely wordplay.
And what does it have to do with... Why wouldn't you call this episode, Quantum Witch?
That makes more sense.
Yeah, it still doesn't really line up with, but...
Ooh, which life is it anyway? Like, whose life is it anyway, but which?
Yeah.
And then which?
Yeah.
Yeah. They should call us! 20 years ago.
Yeah, Charmed 20 years ago. Call us now. We'll come up with better titles for your TV show. So, okay. Speaking of horrible TV...
Yeah, so this episode opens with Phoebe running a talk show. She's guest hosting a talk show.
I swear to God, we did not set out to make this into the Phoebe Halliwell hate train.
And yet here we are.
Oh my God, she's the worst.
Oh, is she the worst, or is the title of this fake show the worst?
Chit chat, this and that. What in
the public access nonsense is that?
Oh, yeah, the show looks like it cost maybe $5 to make.
Ooh, keep that in mind, that the show looks like it cost maybe $5 to make. I'm gonna circle back to that later.
But yeah, this is aggressively public access. Chit chat, this and that. Come on, you couldn't have come up with, morning chat.
No title. Not seeing the title would have been better than this.
Chit chat, this and that. God. This and that.
So Phoebe is guest hosting, and you know how Phoebe's like a real workaholic and her job is more important to her than anything else?
I believe that has come up several times, yes.
She hasn't even read the book of the person she's interviewing, and she is not ashamed to not pretend that she read it. She's just like... So tell me about the 5-minute orgasm. I haven't read the book. Can you just bullet point it for me?
Yeah, but the title sounds cool, but also 5 minutes to get an orgasm, that doesn't sound like very long. And the woman's like, no, it's an orgasm that lasts 5 minutes long. And Phoebe's like, oh, I'm interested in it now. But can you...
That sounds horrifying.
I'm going to bring up the joke later when it comes up.
The one where Homer's being force-fed donuts in hell?
No.
That's the 5-minute orgasm!
But... Does the writer of this episode think that the point of sex is to just accumulate orgasms as quickly as possible?
Real Rocky Flintstone vibes here.
I win. Sex over.
6 months of dating, I didn't get to win once. But,
ooh, boss friends reference.
Thank you. But seriously, you don't want the orgasm. That's honestly, that's some tantric pain/pleasure stuff. You don't want to be orgasming for 5 full minutes. Do you all understand how long 5 minutes is?
Yeah, one of the things that running a podcast really teaches you is how long a second is. Because a second seems like a really short amount of time. But when you're, say, leaving a pause in, that time really adds up.
So when I'm editing the podcast, I edit, Max and I take turns editing, and we have kind of different routines for how we edit, I assume. Mm-hmm. The first thing I do is cut out any silence that's more than 2 seconds long. So that's... And then I still, as I'm listening to it, will cut down silences. A second is a long time. 5 minutes is torturous.
So Phoebe asks, can you tell us how you have the 5-minute orgasm? And the woman's like, that's the whole point of my book. It's the whole point of my book.
If anyone was watching this show, that would definitely take away readers from me. I thought you were going to point out the next terrible question Phoebe asked, which is, does it work for guys too? Okay,
this is, by the way, between the two questions, we cut to Piper, who's watching the TV show in the living room, when, whoa, a demon attacks, and he opens a vortex that starts sucking everything in the living room, in the solarium, into the portal, including the TV.
You know what, though? This actually makes sense, because Phoebe is selfish in everything else in her life. It would make sense that she was a selfish lover who didn't really understand how people with external plumbing like orgasm.
Chris comes in to help Piper. I feel like we should establish what's going on in the rest of that scene.
I cannot get over. She says, can men have a 5-minute orgasm as well?
Okay, I could not find the source for this, but there was a clip I saw of this, I think, British female comedian who was dissecting a rap lyric that went something along the lines of, I'm going to pump you like I pump gas at the gas station. And she's like, really? Really? So you're going to just straight up ejaculate for several minutes? Like,
this is
is this a brat? I'm sorry, our podcast is a little grosser than it normally is.
This is the Mormon practice of soaking.
God. Oh. God, I thought I was being gross. But
it's not our fault that Phoebe doesn't understand how sex works.
But, like, you go to the emergency room if you are a man who is having a 5-minute orgasm. That is a emergency room level emergency.
Honestly,
you will die.
Honestly, aside from how dehydrated you would be if you were a person with external genitalia who orgasmed for 5 minutes, like, aside from that, I feel like even with, like, internal plumbing, you would not be feeling good after 5 minutes of that. I feel like you would also maybe need a hospital. I don't think there's any scenario.
To be fair, this book is clearly like The Secret or whatever, where it's not going to work. You're not going to have a 5-minute orgasm.
You don't think The Secret works? It's all about envisioning your life. You draw positive energy towards you, and you create your own future or something. You make a vision board.
I guess making plans and then working towards them isn't the worst idea in the world for making your life better. It's like how Jordan Peterson has all of this insane stuff, but most of his books are like, if you clean your house, then you'll be happier. Or getting regular exercise and drinking water is good for you. Also, women are voids stealing the light from men. Where you're like, okay, part of this is reasonable and works, so clearly the other part...
You had me going for a second. So, I probably shouldn't say that my favorite podcast is a podcast other than the ones we do, but it is. My favorite podcast is If Books Could Kill, which is an amazing podcast.
Yes.
And the thing you learn from that is that a lot of advice is really basic, like, come up with a goal and work towards that goal. And that's why to flesh it out to book length, you have to fill it with nonsense. That's why these books have so much nonsense.
Okay, tangent within a tangent. When I was in middle school, I was really into books about middle age, like joke books about middle age and advice books about, like, being middle age.
Like Paul Reiser's Fatherhood?
Yes, I was very into Paul Reiser's Fatherhood and its prequel, Couplehood.
Okay.
I'm not sure those are middle age books, but one I had was a book of quotes about being middle-aged. And at a certain point, I realized a good 2/3 of the book were quotes written by the guy who wrote the book. Like, it was a quote book where 2/3 of the quotes were just shit the guy who was making the book made up. And he kept quoting, like, I think it was Bruce Hornsby or somebody. But I was like, you can't do that. You can't I'm going to do a quote book, but since I don't have enough material, I'm just going to make shit up until the book's full.
That's what books are.
I guess that is what books are, yes. Anyway, Chris comes in to help Piper with the demon creating the sucking vortex in the solarium. And
okay, I have to say, everyone looks so disengaged from this. Like, I know Piper's technically being drawn towards the
vortex.
The vortex, thank you. But she just does not look concerned at all. And Chris is just kind of popping in and out. He doesn't seem concerned. And honestly, the demon doesn't look like he's too into his job either. This is like the Friday before a holiday weekend.
To be fair to Chris is at best emotionally capable of a 3. The most passionate Chris can ever get about anything is a 3.
And that's only when he's yelling at a literal baby.
Which is... Mwah, mwah. But yeah, Chris is like, I'm gonna get your sister so they can help you vanquish, the demon that's trying to suck you into this vortex. And Piper's like, no, they're trying to have normal lives. And Chris is like, I'm gonna go get your sisters. He orbs in during Phoebe's interview, and he's waving his arms and jumping on the sidelines, and Phoebe is like tisking him off.
Look, I know he orbed in, but he orbed into the wings. There should be plenty of technicians there to tackle him.
So he's like, okay, fine. He gives up on Phoebe. Why even start with Phoebe? Go get Paige first. She might actually help.
Well, she definitely would help if she wasn't busy being involved in the lady gets sawed in half magic trick at the nursing home that I guess the temp agency sent her to this week.
Okay.
And the guy messes up the trick and he can't split her in half, so she orbs herself into 2 pieces.
Okay, so Paige can just orb herself into 2 pieces then. This is an ability Paige has. Paige is capable of splitting her body. Why don't we see this all the time?
Okay, I don't want to get too... I don't want to be too whatever about how magic works.
Mm-hmm.
But you know the way those boxes work, like your legs are tucked in.
Yeah.
Those aren't her legs.
Yeah.
So maybe she just orbed the box apart because he couldn't, like, get the trick going, but her whole body is in the top part.
Yeah. Okay, fair. Also, she's clearly his assistant, but also he has an assistant who's, like, in a costume. Who is also old. He's old. We're at a retirement home. And everyone's booing him because he doesn't remember how the trick works.
So his assistant is his wife.
Okay.
I get the impression that that she was his assistant, when they were young and he was doing this act on the road as well. And now they're doing it for their fellow nursing home residents. And so I think Paige was playing the part of, like, the plant in the audience who's like, I need a volunteer from the audience. How about you, young lady?
How about you, the only person who isn't a member of this retirement home? Resident, I suppose. But, yeah, Chris orbs in, and he's, like, waving his arms at Paige, and Paige is like, I'm a little busy, Chris. And Chris is like, oh, my God. And he orbs back. And he's like, Piper, can you just blow the guy up? And Piper, like, tries to blow him up. This is one of those weird times where her explodey power doesn't explode. She does the explodey thing, and, like, there's a little explosion on his arm, and he's like, ow, my arm, and he teleports off. I guess with upper level demons, which this guy is apparently, like...
I mean, his power's pretty elite. So, yeah.
I mean, he does basically have the power to create alternate dimensions.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that he is pretty much a heavy... Okay, I know we're way too deep to talk about this now, but all of the upper level demons got all blowed up when the seer fucked up the whole absorbing the Antichrist thing back in season 4.
Yeah, but that was ages ago.
Okay, so other demons just kind of moved up then.
Exactly.
I guess that makes sense.
There was a power vacuum. Exactly.
So,
So, at the Manor...
Klingon promotion E.
Yeah.
But you get cooler powers. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about how... God, you have to just constantly be making new demons, right? Because, like, if you're an upper level demon, you're very aware of the fact that you're not only having to deal with, good witches or whatever, but also everyone under you is rooting for you to fail. I guess that's why bosses are always blowing up their minions, because,
I am, like, mentally going down the rabbit hole now of where demons come from. Because it's not like you get promoted into being this guy. Like, his power is his power, and it's very specific to him. But how did he could... There's not, like, a weaker version of his power that he had and then he got promoted into.
I don't know, maybe there was. Maybe he just, like, created the illusion of, like, a world and trapped people in their own minds.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I guess I can see it.
I mean, we know there are multiple ways of making demons, though. I mean, we don't know how... I guess demons obviously procreate, right? Like, we know... Well, I mean, Cole's mom had him with a mortal guy, but presumably demons can interbreed with other demons. But also, like, you can get uplifted from human to demon.
Yeah, that's true.
As we saw in the episode with Prue's ex-boyfriend from college.
Also, there are demon power brokers, right? Like, there are demons just walking around stealing powers from other demons. When those high-level demons all died, do you think that they just dropped all of their powers like video game loot, and somebody came in and swept it all up and...
Yeah, probably. I mean, we know that's how the Beast or whatever in the Nether region...
Super Hell.
In Super Hell. We know that's how he got so strong, but presumably a lot of demons just yoinked powers from their superiors when they died.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? This is all making sense to me. Okay, yeah, I'm here for this.
But, like...
This episode is dealing with none of this. This is a total tangent.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's fun to think about, and also, like... It doesn't actually come up in Buffy that much outside of the season 2 finale, but you have to think a lot of the stuff that's averting apocalypses is other evil people who want their apocalypse to happen. Like, Spike stops Angel from plunging the world into hell because he likes, the world the way it is, and he doesn't want it to be in hell because then there would be scarier demons.
Have you seen humans?
Around.
They're like Happy Meals walking around.
Yeah. Like, you have to imagine if you're in an apocalypse cult and you're a demon or whatever, a lot of your time has to be spent averting other apocalypses so yours can be the one that happens.
It's like that episode of The Simpsons where we find out that Mr. Burns' body is, like, very, very sick, but all of the sicknesses cancel each other out, so he's, like, super frail but held together by all of his sicknesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, all of the demons are kind of holding the world in check.
Yeah, so you can have an almost infinite supply of demons, but not have them take over because, I mean, Cole talked about it a lot all the time. Factions are forming, like, there's constant strife in the underworld because, being evil isn't really tantamount to working together.
This is the thing that comes up in Good Omens a lot, several times, right? Evil contains the seeds of its own destruction, and that's why.
Although, as Chris points out in this scene, Good doesn't seem all that willing to work together either.
Okay, Chris is just, like, in the corner having a little tantrum because Paige and Phoebe wouldn't leave their jobs to come help Piper even though she was fine.
I mean, I feel really bad for Chris. He is trying so hard to stop these women from dying and they do not give a shit. Like, he's like, Piper, you needed help and neither one of your sisters came, and Piper's like, normal life.
Right? Oh, also, the manor, as they're cleaning up, is covered in roses because there were roses all over the house that Jason has been sending to Phoebe.
It's weird how hot and cold they are. I mean, he's always super into her, but, like...
This is the thing, right? She's keeping him on his toes by being hot and cold to him. She's like, he doesn't know where he stands because I'm giving him such mixed signals. But I have to give him mixed signals because... I don't know what my feelings are and what his feelings are. Every time I'm near him, I'm just like, I definitely want to bang myself. And
I'm an empath.
Every time I see him, all I think is Phoebe is great. Phoebe is the best. Everyone loved Phoebe. And I'm like, well, that's what I think when I'm alone, too. So is that me or is that him? I don't know. So Chris says that he doesn't know what demon caused the vortexes. And the sisters are all very salty to him because he has one job, and that's to know shit. And he's like, no, my job is to warn you about shit, and y'all didn't want to leave work, so I don't even know what I'm doing here.
It's not healing, that's for sure.
He doesn't know how to heal. It's weird to me that...
The elders assigned him to them. They could have assigned any white lighter, and they chose the one that nobody knows who doesn't have the main white lighter power.
Well, it's because the elders decided it wasn't safe to send him back to the future, but why? Chris really shouldn't be here fucking things up. They should send him home.
I mean, yeah, his timeline changed, but, like...
But he's just gonna keep changing it by being here.
Well, I think, theoretically, he just lives in the present now, right? Like Rachel Summers.
Yeah, I guess.
He's like if Rachel Summers was much, 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 much worse at her job. Which is averting the apocalyptic future she came from.
Yeah, I mean, that's Chris's job, too. Alright, so they're getting the house cleaned up, not just because there was a demon attack and you gotta clean up after a demon attack, but also because Piper has friends coming over. And when we were watching this episode, the thing she was describing sounded like LaLaRue.
Mm.
But what happened, I don't even know how to describe.
Okay, it happens in a fantasy world, right? So we're to assume that this isn't actually what the LaLaRue party was.
I didn't even connect that. I just assumed this was what it was. Oh, okay. Okay. So Piper's friend was going to come over and try to get her involved in a multi-level marketing.
I'm assuming.
Okay, because she talks about how her friend is coming over with some fashions to show them, and some of her friends who are interested in buying the fashions, and yeah, it's LaLaRue. Okay. Got it.
So Paige makes all of the roses disappear, and in fact the mess created by the vortex by doing our favorite go-to spell, the vanishing spell? What would you call it?
It is the vanishing spell, but it just hides things, and yet now the place is clean.
No. Sometimes it just makes stuff invisible. Sometimes it destroys stuff. Like when Piper accidentally killed Phoebe by, when that demon made her obsessed with cleaning, and she decided that the only thing to do was to just make the manor vanish and, start from scratch. Also, presumably that time she killed everyone on the bridge, on the Golden Gate Bridge, right?
Yes.
Like...
They got better.
Yeah. Sometimes it makes stuff invisible, sometimes it just makes it gone. But Paige casts the spell, and then we see all of the mess orbing away, which is not how the spell works.
I'm okay with that part, actually. I'm okay with Paige's magic just inherently having a little orb in it all the time.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's consistent, though. I feel like they just kind of... You know what? It doesn't matter. It couldn't possibly matter less, but it just seems like she's using her active power when that's not how the spell works.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, personal gain.
Oh, the fact that this is the very first spell that Paige cast that caused her to experience personal gain consequences, and now she's doing it and there's no issue, and even as she's doing it, she's like, man, I wish personal gain wasn't an issue so I could use magic for everything, and then proceeds to use it with no negative consequences. Is that what you meant by personal gain?
Yeah, also, Paige wants to use magic all the time now. You might notice that this is the exact opposite of what her motivation has been all season up to this point. It's why she's doing the stupid temp job thing, because she wants a life away from magic. But, whatever.
I mean, I think she's accepted that the temp job is just going to keep putting her in the way of stuff that needs magical solutions. I don't feel like Paige is as anti-magic as, Piper is. It really feels more to me like Paige didn't want a life outside of magic. She wanted a life outside of Halliwell Manor. I mean, I know she said she wanted some magic-free time, and that's all well and good. But, I mean, did she really want magic-free time, or did she just not want to be financially dependent on Phoebe? I sense your emotions, Halliwell.
So everyone starts going off to do their own individual, everyone has their own plot this episode. And Chris is like, there's a demon who tried to kill you. Please take this seriously. And they're like, no.
No one takes demon fighting seriously, and no one takes Chris seriously. So Chris begging them all to fight demons is not going to go well for him.
Yeah, and Piper's like, I scared the demon off. It's fine. I have friends coming. And Chris is like, the demon is going to open a vortex and it's going to suck all your friends in. And then you're going to be complaining to me because all of your friends got sucked into a vortex because you wouldn't listen and just fight the stupid demon.
Then he yells at the baby.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it. I love it so much.
He tells baby Wyatt when they're alone in a room.
They leave him alone with the baby again.
He says, this is all your fault, And I'm like, this really isn't on him. This is on your aunts, Chris, and your mother.
Yeah, like, it's not Wyatt's fault that the sisters have the survival instinct of a wet sponge. So Chris orbs into the underworld, and he instantly just finds the demon, and he's like, hey, so you suck at your job, I'm going to help you out.
Yeah, the demon's like, how did you know where I was and how to find me? And Chris is like, I'm from the future, and in the future, we know you, so that's how I know you.
Honestly, I love it. I love that Chris manages to work that into every conversation. Did you know I'm from the future? I'm from the future. I'm Chris. I'm from the future. You've probably never heard of it. It's not very mainstream.
It's like Ben Warren on Station 19, just dropping into every conversation that he's also a doctor and not just a firefighter. Like, whenever they rescue anyone who needs medical care, he's always like, I have to cut them open here in the field because there's no other thing to do. And they're like, wait, you can't do that. He's like, it's okay. I'm also a surgeon.
Or like how in Baywatch, Parker Stevens' character was also a lawyer.
Yeah.
So whenever he was at his lawyer job, he'd have to be like, I have to go. I have lifeguard stuff to do. And then whenever he was being a lifeguard, he'd be like, I have to go. I have lawyer stuff to do. And then he was written off the show for like 10 seasons.
The fact that Ben can't stick with any one thing is actually his plot. Like, he started off as an anesthesiologist on the show, and then he decided that he wanted to have the adrenaline rush of doing surgery, so even though he's, like, 100 years old, he went back to school to do a surgical residency. And then that wasn't exciting enough, so he joined Station 19 to be a firefighter.
And then I'm assuming he died in the last episode when the station collapsed and killed everyone.
He actually decided to go back to medicine because Station 19 is ending, so they're sending him back to Grey's. I mean, presumably they're sending him back to Grey's Anatomy.
I mean, if you could get a job somewhere else, you should probably do that.
I know, right? I saw a meme today that was like, Grey Sloan Memorial Hospital, the only hospital where you're more likely to die as a doctor than the patient. I know this is weird that we're going off on a Grey's Anatomy tangent, but I said this in a previous episode. I do feel like Grey's Anatomy is a charmed AU, so it's appropriate.
Yes.
Anyway, Phoebe's having dinner with her boyfriend Jason, and then something happens that gets her super, super excited. She's approached by a fan.
Yes. She's approached by a fan who's like, Phoebe, you're so beautiful and insightful, and I love your column so much, and I just want to... it's very hard not to fall into the that song from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Which song?
Feeling Kind of Naughty Tonight.
Oh, okay.
The song about how you both want to be and murder somebody because you admire them so much.
Yeah, you want to skin them and then wear their skin, but then somehow they also see you in the skin and are like, girl, you look so good in my skin.
It's a very catchy song. It's basically a Katy Perry parody.
It is. So
I feel like the earlier seasons of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend were good at just doing songs that were kind of pastiches of a very particular subgenre. In later seasons, it felt more like they were just parodying specific songs.
Well, that's not just a Katy Perry pastiche. That's a takeoff of I Kissed a Girl. So it's...
Yeah, but...
That was happening even way back.
But it feels like it's kind of a lot of different Katy Perry. Like, obviously, I Love My Daughter, but Not in a Creepy Way is a direct rip on Butterfly Kisses, but it has a lot of, new country influence, I think. I feel like it's not just the one song.
Okay, well, I feel like you could say the same about the later season songs.
I don't know, like, Real Life Fighting is Awkward is A, not as good a song as it should be, and B...
Yeah, because it's awkward. Like real life fighting.
I know, but why would you do a song that is so clearly kung fu fighting when if the catchiest songs in the universe and not have I know, it's because real life
in real life, it's awkward.
Yes.
Anyway, the superfan asks for Phoebe's autograph in her moleskin notebook. Also, that superfan might be a premonition later.
Really?
You don't recognize her?
Not particularly.
I think maybe you just don't recognize her because all of her teeth are good in this shot that we see. She doesn't have a dead tooth.
I think you think I've seen more It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
But you know, because you got the reference, because for some reason they referenced that on,
Yeah, because they referenced it on Raising Hope.
Okay.
With Kate Micucci, who I would have recognized if this had been that character.
I feel like I've given away, but I'm going to save it for premonition anyway.
I think I like Raising Hope a lot more than you do.
You definitely do.
It's solid, especially the earlier seasons where it's a lot darker. It gets pretty goofy later on.
So Phoebe's like, listen, Jason, you know all of the amazing stuff you're doing because you're not sure where we stand? It's fine. I like you. We stand fine. Stop doing that. I mean, don't stop doing that because then I'll disappear, but like feel like you can stop doing it.
Oh my god, it is the most mixed message ass conversation ever. He's like, Phoebe, I want to give you the world. I want to buy you a TV station. I want to make you nationally syndicated. I want to burn your image into the moon. And she's like, Jason, you don't have to do that unless you really want to. But you don't have to.
But the weird thing is, it feels like a breakup conversation at first. She's like, Jason, we really need to talk. Like, it's weird. I wouldn't know where I stood if I was Jason.
He interrupts her by kissing her, which is supposed to be romantic.
Yeah, because she's, like, supposed to sound like she's spiraling. And, yeah.
It mostly just seems like maybe this will shut her up, and then it doesn't. I think it's supposed to be a romantic moment, but it super does not land.
Back at the manor, Piper is in the kitchen. Leo orbs in, and she's like, great, take Wyatt so that I can do my LaLaRoo party with my friends, my off-screen friends that we've never seen before and will never see again.
Just a heads up, Wyatt has a fever, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll heal him because, you know, I'm basically God, so I can do stuff like that.
And she's like, well, don't heal him because that's how children develop immunities. They need to actually get sick.
Which, fair, yeah, that is accurate.
And he's like, oh, okay, well, I can't take Wyatt today. Not because of the sickness, but I was already feeling like I couldn't take Wyatt because I've got elder shit to do, so sorry, you're on your own.
He's been arranging a trial for Chris because of the whole, you know, banishing him to Valkyrie Land. Also, Chris
because he killed the Valkyrie.
He killed several Valkyries. Chris has murdered multiple people. As he tells Piper, and Piper's like, Leo, I don't have time for this. I have a LaLaRoo party. Leo is telling you that Chris has murdered people. And she's like, Leo, we all murder people all the time.
I mean, it's true. But she's also like, how do you know he killed people? I mean, it's not like you are some sort of mystical being that looks down on everything and knows everything. And it's not like he's acted in the least bit suspicious ever.
Speaking of, Chris is in hell, and he's talking to the demon, and the demon's like, White Lighters don't usually pay me to kill their witches. And he's like, have you seen... Okay, most White Lighters don't have to deal with the Charmed ones.
Right? So... Yeah, exactly.
Also, I have my own shit going on. I'm from the future, so, you know, look.
I have my own agenda.
I have my own agenda. Here's a list of all of the Charmed ones' weaknesses. I really thought I wasn't going to like this episode because...
No, this episode was amazing.
This episode was so good, but we will see this plot a million times.
Okay, so when you said...
And we already kind of have, but... Mm-hmm.
Now, when you said these are the Charmed one's weaknesses, I feel like we need to be really specific about what this demon is, because we've talked around it, but not really said what he does. And he feeds on desire, and the way he does that is trap you in a world of your own desire. Yeah. And then...
Yeah, he physically manifests your desire into an alternate dimension, which you're trapped there. Your desires grow stronger and stronger. They feed in on themselves until, you know, they kill you, and then he absorbs energy from it somehow. I like how Chris is like, so, wait, you eat desire? Do you, like, digest it? Do you get energy? How does that work? And the demon's like, don't think about it too hard. I eat desires. Don't think about it too hard.
I'm also not really sure how he crafts these worlds. Somehow, like, sucking Piper into a vortex was going to put her in a position where... her world, I think, like, eventually formed around her. But now that he knows what the Charmed One's desires are, he can, like, craft the worlds and then just drop them into it without even using a vortex. Except the implication is that Chris is giving him what their desires are so that he can craft the worlds. But, and I'm spoiling for the end of the episode here, to some extent, he must be psychically interpreting their desires, both because of what's going to happen with Chris, but also because he, like, misfires on Phoebe because she has her empathy power now. So he interprets Jason's desire that she's feeling empathetically as her desire and accidentally creates Jason's desire world.
Jason's desire, of course, being that Phoebe is the most beloved and worshipped megastar in the universe.
Jason needs therapy.
I feel like Jason has a weird version of rich guy brain, like in that one episode of The Other Two.
I feel like this whole relationship would be better if Jason's mother had loved him. I mean, I know we don't see her or anything, but I feel like that's the core of this issue. I think Jason's got mommy issues.
I mean, this is the thing with rich dudes, though. I mean, not to malign my own gender, but dudes in general don't tend to take rejection well, but especially rich guys, it causes you to do stuff like run for president or buy Twitter.
Oh my god.
Like, rejection manifests in some very bizarre behavior, and clearly Phoebe's hot and cold thing due to witch stuff has been making Jason, I'm trying to think of a non-ableist way to say cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Well, he's also been, like, really... He's also got to be intrigued by the fact that he can't just win her over with his massive amounts of money.
Yeah.
And I know that's a cliche, but I think it's a cliche for a reason.
So, maybe the vortex, like, is what scans you for your desire and what creates the world around you.
Or maybe the vortex just, like, brought you to his hell world so that he could read you up close. And because of Chris, he's able to read them from afar.
Whatever. It doesn't matter how we get from point A to point B. Now that he has a list of their desires, which... Can you guess what their desires are? Do
you think it might be the one thing each of them said before the episode really got kicked off?
Yeah. You remember when Paige put her hands on her hips and was like, boy, I wish I could live in a world that was all magic all the time. And Piper put her hands on her hips and was like, not me. I just want a normal life with no magic at all, but inexplicably male strippers.
All right, so let's go to Piper's world. We see, like, the wave wash over the universe, and at this point, Piper has been taken out of the universe and dropped into her desire realm.
She just kind of plonks Wyatt into a playpen.
Well, because there are people at the door.
Well, he's going to be there for the entirety of this fashion thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm a more neurotic parent than Piper is, but I can't imagine dropping our... I don't know. How old is Wyatt supposed to be? Not even a year at this point, right?
Right.
I can't imagine just dropping the baby off in... I guess maybe if she's that young and it was nap time.
No, yeah, she just puts him in the pack and play. It's fine. He's fine in the pack and play.
Yeah. So, way more women were invited than Piper thought. Like, there's a whole gaggle of women.
And the host of the party tells Piper that her clothes are actually lingerie, and Piper's like, I'm not gonna have to model, am I? And the woman's like, well, no, you wouldn't fill out the pouch. And then a bunch of sexy men come in.
I guess credit to Charmed for doing fan service for women. We've talked about the weird thing with Charmed where it's very clearly a show for women, but all of the fan service is directed at men.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, not this episode.
Nope. All right, over at the old folks' home, the Magician's Act, I guess, is still going on. However much later this is, he's still going.
So is it like a daily thing? Is this act a daily thing for him?
He tries to pull a rabbit out of his hat, and then his wife/assistant kindly reminds him that the rabbit died a few years ago. And then he has a heart attack over this news.
I forgot the rabbit died. Heart attack. And Paige is like, oh no, if only there was a way to get him to the hospital really quickly.
And everyone else is like, cut the shit, Paige. We all know you're a witch, just fucking orb him there.
And she's like, I'm not a witch. And his wife is like, Jesus fucking Christ, Paige, if you do not orb my husband to the hospital right now, I will vanquish you myself. See? Orb, vanquish. I know all the witch words. Go! And she orbs the old man to the hospital.
Meanwhile, in Phoebe's world, that we're all just living in.
Yeah, she did such a good job temping on the talk show that she's getting her own nationally syndicated pilot, which was also a thing Jason was pushing.
Okay, but she doesn't know any of this yet. At this point, she thinks she's just going to go out on stage and host Chit Chat this or that again.
Ugh.
But then the wave washes over her world, and when she opens the door, the studio is filled with cheering fans who are chanting for Phoebe. And the set is now 4 pillars and a purple void with neon letters that say Ask Phoebe. To which she's like, how did you have time to put together this extensive set? Like, she comes to that point over and over again, and I'm like, did the set designers read the script before they designed the set? Because I could absolutely whip that out in, like, one day at a community theater, so I don't know what's going on with her.
Yeah. But also, Jason was talking about getting her own TV show when they were at lunch together, and Phoebe's like, I don't even know if I want to do a TV show. And he's like, but you're so amazing at it. Like, you're amazing at everything. I love you so much, Phoebe.
So, Phoebe leaves the studio and after the show, which I guess was a great success, and standing outside are a bunch of cheering fans who all have signs to hold up. One fan runs up to her and gives her a bouquet of flowers and tells her that she saved his marriage.
By telling his wife to get a dog. I like to think that's her advice for everyone.
It was her very first advice. It's the only advice we've ever seen her give, by the way.
Yeah, really thought that was going to be a segment. But,
yep.
But no, people just talk about how good her advice is.
I mean, I guess it's better that way.
Yeah. So Phoebe's feeling a little overwhelmed by this, massive crowd that formed to worship at her feet.
And Jason's like, I didn't bring the crowds in. That was all you, Phoebe. And she's like, okay, but how did they know we were taping?
Yeah, which, valid. Phoebe is way more on the ball than I would give her credit for.
Okay, there's a guy standing outside that has a sign that says, marry me, Phoebe. And when she passes him and sees the sign, he flips it around, and on the back it says, or die. And I just need to let you all know, dear listeners, since podcasts are an audio-only format, that he used the same purple sparkle gel pen that he used to write marry me, Phoebe, to write or die.
You laughed so hard when we were first watching
It
this.
was hilarious. It's just so ridiculous. All right, speaking of things that are ridiculous.
So back at the manor, Leo's like, hey, Chris, I'm going to put you on trial for the murders you did, and, then they're going to kill you. They're going to give you the white light or death penalty. And Chris is like, you also murdered a bunch of Valkyries? And, I like how he doesn't even deny the fact that he murdered a bunch of Valkyries. He's like, yeah, well, you did it too.
And Leo's like, I just killed the Valkyries I had to kill because I was imprisoned in Valhalla by you, which is also an excellent point.
Yeah. And Chris is like, you know what, man, do whatever you need to do. I have other stuff. And Leo's like, I'm putting you on trial for murder. They're going to kill you. Technically, they're going to recycle him, which is where they erase all of your memories and your personality and reset you to your base form. And
they just recycle your soul. You just get reincarnated.
Well, when we see it later, it's basically you're just a blank slate white lighter.
That's what babies are.
Yeah, but they don't make babies do white lighter stuff.
That is
babies don't have jobs. Except for, of course, the boss baby. Also, okay, I'm sorry I mentioned it, so now I have to go into it. But the whole...
Can you talk about the Jesus baby thing?
No, it's not. He's not Jesus.
No, the fact that there is a Jesus baby.
In Boss Baby? No.
Okay, what are you going to talk about?
Okay, so, well, first of all, in the world of Boss Baby, Catholicism is canon. It is the one true faith. We know that because heaven is run, or the limbo dimension we see, is run by all of the babies that don't have souls.
So, pre-Vatican II Catholicism is correct. Because at Vatican II, that was changed.
Yes. So, when you are in limbo, they determine whether or not you have a soul. And if you have a soul, then you get sent to Earth to be a baby. And if you don't, then you run limbo as a corporation. A corporation that's only goal is to get people to make more babies. The boss baby...
That is the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, and yes, the boss baby is kind of Jesus because he comes to Earth to, further the mission by killing dogs. I'm not joking. That's the plot of Boss Baby. Because they're making a new breed of dog that will make people not want to have babies anymore because they just will have the dogs.
Yeah, it's like that whole thing about how millennials are like, let's have a dog and see how it goes, and then if it works out, we'll get a baby. But now it's just going to be all dogs.
Yeah. So he goes to Earth to kill dogs. He forms a relationship with his brother, grows a soul, and then dies and is reborn as an actual baby.
Spoilers.
Yes, spoilers alert for the movie Boss Baby.
That's what happens in Boss Baby. Yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with this. That has nothing to do with this episode of Charmed, but I feel like I have to mention it because Boss Baby is legitimately an insane movie and no one ever talks about it.
Yeah, because nobody made a meme where they just copy-pasted the entire script. Boss Baby is just as out of control as B-Movie.
Okay, but in B-Movie, the Jerry Seinfeld bee that's in a relationship with a human woman doesn't die and then get reborn.
Okay, but the other bee sacrifices himself and lives
and violates the one rule they established about bees at the beginning of...
Right, exactly. The one thing we know about bees is that if they sting someone, they die, and yet he doesn't die. Spoilers for B-Movie. Sorry about that, y'all.
Although the opening bit also has a newspaper gag about a bee stinging 6 others and then self at a workplace thing, which is such a dark joke. I mean, B-Movie's kind of...
B-Movie's really fucked up.
Renee Zellweger leaves her fiance for a bee.
She also tries a class action case. She tries a class action case that she is in no way qualified to be the attorney in.
She's a florist.
As evidenced by the fact that she files paperwork with the wrong courthouse.
And she sues. She sues all of humanity on behalf of bees. And then, for some reason, this one court in New York, is...
You're right.
We can't get into
the jurisdiction issues raised by B-Movie.
We're talking about Charmed. We're so far off at this point. But B-Movie and Boss Baby are both very insane movies, and nobody gives them enough credit for that. People talk about the human bee romance thing like it's the most messed up thing in B-Movie, but it's not.
Honestly, it's a lot weirder that they go into business together than that they end up in a relationship together.
Also, he's that weird dream sequence where she's flying a plane and then she crashes it and blows up. What was the point of that? Was it foreshadowing for the bees lifting the airplane at the end of the movie?
Listen, everything about that movie is wrong. It starts off with the whole, a honeybee should not be able to fly, but no one ever told the honeybee. That's not true. That's obviously not true. You know why I know that's not true?
Why?
Because bees do fly!
Also, the lawsuit leads to an extinction-level event where all life on Earth is dying because bees decide not to do their jobs.
Look, I know bees are pollinators, but they're not the only pollinators.
Also, aren't bees just not giving their honey to humans anymore? Wouldn't they?
No, they decided to stop making honey altogether because... apparently they were only making it for humans and not, because it's a natural thing that they do to survive.
Jerry Seinfeld is a garbage person. We don't have time to get into this, but...
Oh my god, I actually... The idea that a boomer would say something so bad that I would gasp at it is... But I gasped today.
At the masculinity thing.
But did you hear the other part of that? He misses a time when there were defined hierarchies. Can you imagine saying that sentence?
Especially as a Jewish guy.
Well, I mean, I will say the TikTok I saw was gee, I wonder why a 70-year-old white billionaire would be interested in in bringing back hierarchies.
Well, one of the examples of masculinity he mentioned was Sean Connery, notable woman hitter, which really, dude, really.
Ugh.
Okay, enough dunking on Jerry Seinfeld. Because we could do that literally forever. You know, he said he didn't want to read positive reviews of his movie Pop-Tart.
Well, good news!
Yeah, exactly. Good news, because I don't think any
It's not called Pop-Tart, it's called Unfrosted.
I don't want my movie to be like the Barbie movie. Yeah, it's not. The Barbie movie, which made billions of dollars and was universally beloved except by weirdos.
Listen. We could get into the Jerry Seinfeld movie. We could absolutely do a podcast dunking on the Jerry Seinfeld movie. But we're not going to. That's not what this is.
We could do a podcast dunking on Jerry Seinfeld overall.
Oof.
He dated a high schooler when he was doing Seinfeld.
Yes, he did. He did do that. He did do that.
What's the deal with girlfriends? They're always asking you to take them to prom.
Are we ever going to talk about Seinfeld on Welcome to the End, do you think?
God, we might have to. By the way, we have a new podcast. It's called Welcome to the End, where we talk about the series finales that are good, bad, weird, and false endings.
Yeah. So we've released our good and our bad episode, and that is for the first season. So our good episode for the first season is 30 Rock. Our bad episode is Do You Even Need to Ask How I Met Your Mother? And our What the Fuck episode that we'll be recording next week is Drop Dead Diva.
Speaking of dropping dead, the old
Nice!
the old magician guy did not drop dead because Paige orbed him to the hospital in time. And everyone is like, wow, Paige, thank God you're a witch with actual magical powers, or else, he would have died and, that would have been bad.
And she's like, keep your voice down about me being a witch. And the old woman's like, what are you talking about? Everyone knows you're a witch. You bring it up more than people who went to Harvard bring up going to Harvard.
And Paige is like, huh? That's what I always wanted. A world where I can do magic as openly as I want. Which has been a little bit of a thing for Paige, to be fair.
I think this might be why Paige is one of my favorites. Because Keeping Up a Masquerade really makes no sense other than to allow the show to continue to take place in our world.
It's why she was so horned up to tell Daryl from, not Daryl from Charmed, Daryl from The Walking Dead, but his character on Charmed, Norman Reedus. It's why she was so horned up to tell him about the witch thing, even though they'd been on, 3 dates.
Exactly.
But yeah, now she has now she's living in a world where she can openly be a witch. I hope there are no, flip sides to that desire.
A better show would have made this a queer narrative. I just want to say that.
I mean, they kind of do that.
They do not. Any queerness that you see, you have to bring yourself.
Well, I mean, I'm glad I can finally live in a world where I'm being myself.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't feel like they touch on the, what the metaphor would really be there. This is more like she's glad that she can use her magic for convenience stuff without worrying about it too much.
I mean, it kind of is about living life openly as because she's free to be herself, but also that means demons are trying to kill her all the time in public.
Yeah.
So it is pretty directly a queer thing.
I'm not saying that's not a queer thing. I'm just saying the show doesn't present it queerly.
Well, it's like reading a trans narrative into The Little Mermaid.
It's way easier to read a trans narrative into The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, but that's not what Hans Christian Andersen intended.
No, he intended it to be
a gay narrative, which is different.
Yes, it's different, but I'm just saying there was already queer energy there.
I mean, I guess actually the Disney version is probably more of a trans narrative.
I thought you were talking about the Disney version.
Oh, no, I was talking about the original, but I guess it's not really as much as the Disney version.
Oh, see,
Definitely the Disney Corporation was not like, hey, kids in 1989, here's a story about being trans. I know we would like to give Alan Menken credit for that, but...
We definitely don't have time for that. Because we've got strippers. Male strippers.
Yes.
Wait, is is it appropriate to call them strippers if they've never stripped anything off? They just came out in underwear and stayed in underwear and danced around?
Well, one of them tears off the underwear.
Ah.
So,
Oof.
yes.
Weren't they supposed to be there to model the underwear and then he rips it off? Like, you have one job and that's to keep the underwear on your body.
Well, clearly the entire point of this was just, we're going to get some male strippers. This was all a pretext for male strippers. Because Piper's like, I really like the way that you designed the underwear these men are dancing around in. And the woman's like, thanks, I tried really hard. And another woman's like, I don't care about the underwear. I just think it's hot. And it's like, yes, that is clearly what they were talking around.
It's like, you don't have to explain the joke, lady. I did not realize this when we were first watching the episode, that this might be part of Piper's desire and not actually be what would have really happened. And I'm very excited now to just assume that this is what Piper thinks a La LaRue party is.
She's going to be very disappointed when it actually happens
Yeah,
in
when
real
she
life.
gets on Facebook, she's gonna have a sad realization.
But she's talking to the woman who's throwing the party, and she's like, I wasn't really expecting this. And the woman's like, well, once you've been married for a while, you have to make your own fun elsewhere. And it's like,
do you?
Well, also, this is, I know this isn't a fantasy world or whatever. Also, Piper, your kid is sick. Maybe you should have canceled this.
Oh, she definitely should have. She's... Ugh.
Speaking of her kid,
Wait, before we speak of her kid.
Yeah.
She says, when her friend is talking about how you have to make your own fun, she says, I've missed so much, implicitly while I was busy dealing with magic.
Also being married.
She meant magic, though, because that's the world she created. And I just need to point out that she believes that while she is vanquishing demons, her friends are all having orgies at their houses.
I mean, we don't know her friends. Maybe.
You know what? You're right. I take it back. I take it back.
So she goes upstairs to check on her, sick child.
Who is sicker now than he was before. His fever is super high now.
It's 102, which
I guess that's not super high.
Which she treats it like it's super high. It is pretty high. It is a pretty high fever. Like when our kid had a fever of 103, I did take her to the doctor, but just told me, rest, fluids, blah, blah, blah.
And you took her to the doctor, not the emergency room.
Yes.
Piper's definitely treating this like emergency room high temperature.
I actually didn't even get her to the doctor. I drove her to the doctor's office, and I was on the phone with them, and they're like, just take her home, observe her, and, fluids, rest, and her temperature went down pretty soon after, so.
Yeah, it was terrible timing? Having a baby in February of 2020.
Yes.
Although, I mean, I have talked about this in my real life. I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast. But it was weirdly helpful that when I needed to be on maternity leave, the whole world went work from home.
Yeah, it kind of lined up because, I mean, not in a positive way, obviously, we did not. But the fact that everyone was kind of isolating at the same time we were, there was sort of a communal experience.
Although, I mean, I did imagine that my maternity leave, when I was thinking about what it would be like, I did imagine that, we'd go do baby... I had all these ideas for what my maternity leave would look like that it definitely did not.
Yeah, I mean, COVID really, it changed everything. And also, our kid came very early. So, there was a lot of stuff we were planning to do. I was going to take her. I was signing up for, Mommy and Me classes, which... they weren't called Mommy and Me anymore. It was whatever because, I am a dad. But, I was signing her up for stuff like that. And then...
Yeah.
The world changed.
Yeah. Making plans. What is that even?
Speaking of making plans, Jason is going to make Phoebe the brightest, shiniest star in the universe. And Phoebe's like, I don't know about that, Jason. I mean... I guess not. She did turn her back on having a nationally syndicated column for some reason. So it
was so she could spend more time with her nephew.
Oh, yeah. She was really obsessed with Wyatt for 2 episodes, and now I don't think she ever spends any time with him.
Yep. So the driver says, we're here at the penthouse, and Phoebe gets really upset that he's taken her to the penthouse when she thought they were going to...
Well, he bought her a penthouse.
Right.
He bought her a penthouse, and he's like, I had all of your stuff moved in here. You live here now. And she's like...
Okay, but before she gets angry and he tells her that, all of the language that people used made me think we were just going to Jason's place. Like, it wasn't like, here's your penthouse. The driver of Jason's limo says, all right, we're at the penthouse. And Phoebe's like, you bought me a penthouse? When it's so much more logical to assume that it's just Jason's house. It's even weirder that she's right.
So they get to the penthouse, and there's a huge crowd there. Everyone's screaming. They're waving signs. They're like clawing at Phoebe.
One woman tells Phoebe that she wallpapered her walls with Ask Phoebe columns. And Phoebe's like, you know what? Even as cool as I am, even as much as I know that I deserve all of this attention, I do feel like we're in an alternate universe.
Yeah, she cottons onto this pretty quickly. She's like, yeah, no, this isn't real. This is all fake. And this guy's like, my wife left me because of your column. And she's like...
Yeah, definitely an alternate reality.
Alternate reality. Although, if she was a good advice columnist, she definitely would have broken up a few marriages.
Yep.
Like...
I didn't plan this, but I'm wearing my Dump Him shirt for while we record.
Yeah, like, a lot of times when you're writing into an advice column for advice on your relationship, that advice should probably be just break up.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy pulls a gun, and Jason's like, no! And he leaps in front of Phoebe, and,
Phoebe puts her hand, like, she's holding his chest. He kind of fell a little on top of her. When she pulls her hand away, there is the tiniest amount of blood. And yet I think we're supposed to assume that this is what gives her so much cause for concern. Obviously, the optimal amount of blood is 0. You don't want any blood.
He got shot.
Just saying there should be more. I'm just saying there should be more blood. That's all I'm saying. There should be more blood.
Thirsty for blood.
I don't know what to tell you.
She should be her hand should be covered in viscera.
Would it kill them to put a little guts in with that blood? Anyway, yeah.
Chris orbs into the demon's lair.
And the demon's like, this is really weird because number one, it's usually a little bit longer before people start trying to kill the person who's trapped in here. I don't know what it is about Phoebe that made people start shooting at her sooner.
And Chris is like, wait, you're killing them already? And the guy's like, that was the plan, wasn't it? And Chris is like...
the demon also explains, and I think this is really cool, that he doesn't kill them, right? Like, he doesn't control their fate. Their desires inherently will doom them. Like, their desires contain the seeds of their destruction. I like that. I like that piece of it. But he also says that if something within your desire tries to kill you, you die 100% of the time. So the fact that Phoebe's not dying is super suspicious.
Maybe her greatest desire was that someone shoots Jason. She's like, I want a really rich boyfriend to give me everything I want, and then I want him to get shot.
I don't want to date this episode, but she's looking for a man in finance. 6'5", trust fund, blue eyes. It's a song. It's the song of the summer.
Okay.
I'll play it for you later.
Okay. I was thinking it's more, who's that woman Roger was dating in that one episode of American Dad? As his old rich guy persona?
Yes.
How is her song the song, the All I Care About Is Money song? Mm-hmm. How is that not a TikTok noise?
I'm going to have to play this song for you. It basically is now.
Oh, good. I hate old men. They all disgust me. Unless they give me money. Alternatively, Fanny from Bob's Burgers.
Yes.
From the actual Bob's Burgers movie.
Oh, what is that episode called?
Bob Saves / Destroys the Town. It's a 2-parter. Bob saves the town. Bob destroys the town.
And it's basically the plot of the movie, but better and half as long.
Yeah.
It's the 30 Rock of the Bob's Burgers movie.
Yes. Not that the Bob's Burgers movie is bad. It's just It's a little weird that it's a plot they already did, but better because it's more concise and it's with characters we already know.
Yep. So, Leo has...
Wait, did we already know them? Is that the introduction of Felix? That might be the first Felix episode.
Actually, I think you're right. Huh.
But still, it's better because it's more concise. It's one of those things where you're charmed.
So, Leo has not come to Piper when she called for help, so she runs upstairs to try to find, I guess, a summoning spell to summon him, or maybe a cure spell to just cure Wyatt, because she doesn't need... She's a strong, independent witch who doesn't need a man. But she finds the Book of Shadows completely empty.
Her friends follow her up to the attic, and they're like, hey, what's this weird dais with an empty book on it? And she's like, don't worry about it. I need Leo. Leo! And they're like, honey, Leo's gone. Because you got divorced or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Unhandfasted.
Hand slowed.
So Paige is leaving the hospital in her alternate dimension, and this woman grabs her arm and she's like, my daughter was kidnapped by demons and you need to save her. And Paige is like, I don't know what you're talking about. And the woman's like,
Drop it. We all know you're a witch. I don't know why you're pretending we don't all know.
I just told you my daughter was kidnapped by demons. Do you think I'm not hip to the whole witch thing?
Okay, she wasn't actually kidnapped. This woman was in a demon attack and her daughter hid. So she's hiding, and for some reason the demons are still there.
But yeah, this is the other side to Paige being in a world where she can openly use magic, which is, hey, demons can openly use magic. So there's a lot more of them just out and about, in the daytime hours doing whatever.
She goes to the only alleyway we ever see, which is apparently where these demons were, and she fireballs 2 of them.
Yeah, she orbs their fireballs.
Yes,
and then,
she orbs their fireballs back into them. And then she goes into a building where the girl's presumably hiding. There's a demon looking for her as well, so she takes care of that demon.
I get it. It's your go-to thing, but it seems weird that they keep popping fireballs when she just immediately orbs them and then uses them against them. Also, wouldn't you want to try to use an energy attack that you're immune to?
Yes.
To kind of circumvent this sort of thing?
These are low-level demons. These demons haven't survived the first fight with the Charmed Ones or giving their boss bad/good news.
So, Paige rescues the little girl from the warehouse she was hiding in, and then all of the innocents come out from behind the crates to clap at her. But there are more demons.
It's literally, and everybody clapped.
Yes, she rescues the little girl. Everyone claps, but there are more demons, and for some reason she could very easily kill the first 5 demons, but the 5 more demons, she's being overwhelmed.
I mean, she takes them out pretty quickly, and she does it smart. She orbs between them and then orbs away and lets them kill each other. But
more demons show up, and Paige is like, I'm just gonna hide behind this dumpster instead of continuing to just kill them.
Well, she's basically being overborn. If they just keep coming, then she's got a problem.
She could also leave.
Yeah, she could just orb away.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's too many innocents in the alleyway that were all clapping for her. If it was just the girl, she could grab the girl and take off, but she's got all these other innocents to worry about now.
That girl straight up disappears. We do not see her for the rest of this scene.
We do not. Meanwhile, in Phoebe's reality, she's talking to a dying Jason.
And she's like, so this reality isn't real, and maybe you're not real, but maybe you are. And he's like, all I want to do is give you everything. And she's like, I bet someone created this reality around my desire, but since I'm an empath, my desire was your desire, and that's why you got shot instead of me. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. You know who does know what she's talking about? Is the demon, who sees all of this go down in his, portal viewer, and it's like, she's an empath? Empaths fuck up this spell for this very reason. We don't cast this spell on empaths. And then he gets super mad at Chris because... we totally skipped over it, but he shot Chris with a dark lighter arrow. When Chris was confronting him earlier, So when Chris confronts him, Chris is like, why are you killing them so quickly? Because, of course, Chris's plan was for them to not die, and if everything moves too quickly, they might die. And the
the desire demon points out, my literal whole thing is that I read people's desires, and then you came in here and was like, I want to kill the charmed ones, and my desire senses just told me, oh, he wants to teach them a lesson about not giving in to their desires, but he's definitely going to have them vanquish me.
And then Chris is like, I don't need them to vanquish you. Look, I got this vanquishing potion right here. And then the guy just shoots him with a dark lighter arrow, which is why you just throw the potion. You don't need to have a whole conversation, Chris.
Yeah, he should have done it immediately when he walked in there.
Huh. But no, now he's dying very slowly of dark lighter venom, and the potion that he made to vanquish the demon has been smashed on the floor.
Completely ineffective. So over in Paige's reality, she's hiding out from the demons behind the dumpster, and then Phoebe senses her with her magical empath ability.
Yeah, she uses her empath power to merge the two universes that they're in.
So this is a universe where Phoebe is super famous and also magic is real. Magic is public.
Yeah.
What would happen if what would happen if
Piper and Paige merged realities?
Their realities can't merge. They'd
explode,
opposites.
yeah.
It would
Matter
be like,
and antimatter.
It would be like if you tried to merge the world of shrimp and the world with no shrimp.
I like a Buffy reference as much as the next person, but I feel like the world of shrimp is the most overplayed one in, like...
It was evocative.
It was very evocative, and they reference it a bunch, so I get why it gets used so much, but there is a bit in one of the America Chavez books that takes place in the world of nothing but shrimp, and I'm like, I get it, Buffy doesn't own the concept, it's clearly a Buffy riff, but like...
Okay, so you know how when you're jumping between universes, you need to have one universe that's inherently ridiculous, it's kind of a joke that you leap through?
Yeah.
And that's basically become the world of shrimp, right? That's become the ridiculous world that you leap through.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that you need to understand.
Yes.
That's us. Our timeline is the ridiculous timeline that the hero jumps through. I know some people like to joke, oh, we're in the darkest timeline. We're not. We're in the joke timeline. I think that's pretty clear to everyone. And when you're in the joke timeline, trying to come up with something that's the joke timeline, what is more ridiculous? You gotta go world of shrimp.
Also, spoiler alert for the new Buffy comic, although I don't think it's the new Buffy comic anymore. It's the one that takes place in the modern day, which is a kind of weird conceit. Like, I get it, Buffy was like 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of weird to do we're going to do Buffy in the modern day. And they change a bunch. I didn't care for it. I read a bunch of it and I was like, there's like, they like do a running thing on the Dark Willow stuff so much. Like, she's already like an actively magic using lesbian in season 1, basically. But we find out that it's the world without shrimp, and I'm like, really? Really? In a world where there's no shrimp, the timeline is 30 years delayed, and...
You know, you didn't like the timelines in Farscape, you don't like the timelines in Buffy, you're just not a timeline guy.
Yeah, I mean...
We definitely won't watch Dark Matter together, I'll watch up on my own. Alright, so the girls are in a dumpster.
Yes, Phoebe and Paige are hiding from the dozens of demons in a dumpster, and Phoebe's like, maybe I can use my empathy to hone in on Piper and something, merge realities.
And then we see what Piper is doing, which is driving Wyatt to the hospital, and then they get T-boned by a truck, because she's distracted by her feverish baby.
Yes. If only she had magic, this wouldn't have happened.
Well, no, because your desires kill you, right? So her desire to live in a world without magic means that she couldn't just call Leo to heal Wyatt. So instead she was on the road, which is where you're most likely to, be in a serious accident. So there you go.
Yeah. Point. Yeah, she didn't even try to teleport, which is something we know the Charmed Ones can do.
Yeah.
Like... Granted, the non-page ones can't orb, but we've seen them cast spells to teleport before.
I mean, she'd already gone upstairs and the book was blank, so...
Yeah, I guess the assumption that magic isn't, like, a thing would be, you know.
Pretty fast.
Yeah. So all of the demons are throwing energy balls or whatever at the dumpster Paige and Phoebe are hiding in. Why do they not just orb to a different location if, like, Phoebe's like, I'm concentrating on Piper. I'm going to draw us to her.
She feels scared.
You don't have to be in the dumpster for this. You could just teleport away.
Well, I mean, you need to make the scene have some sort of urgency to it, and we've already seen that the Charmed Ones are no longer interested in acting with any sense of urgency, as evidenced by the way that Piper was just standing around chill while the demon tried to suck her into a vortex. So you have to have something physically attacking them, so the demons are fireballing the dumpster.
Meanwhile, the demon who creates the vortexes is yelling at Chris. He's like, you ruined everything, goddammit. Now I have to go into the worlds and kill them myself. And Chris is like, dying, don't care. Also, do you need to go into the world and kill... Like, he's going after Piper because, you know, in a world with no magic, she's more vulnerable than she's ever been before, blah, 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 blah.
But he just eats their desires. Maybe let this one go and don't get vanquished. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you could just leave. That's an option that's open to you. Demons never seem to take it, but, like, y'all can teleport, just go somewhere else. They never leave San Francisco.
Nope, but speaking of teleporting...
You could go to Sausalito and be fine.
Yes. Speaking of teleporting, it is at this moment that Phoebe is able to use her empathy power to teleport to this dimension because she sensed where Piper was, and they teleport crouched down so that she can do, like, a low kick and knock out the demon's feet out from under him.
She does a spinning bird kick, and suddenly they're all running away on a green screen, and you can tell that an explosion's going to happen because he's standing in gasoline next to a burning car.
Yep.
So, the most fantastic green screen explosion happens.
They do the running away from the explosion thing, and then...
They're all blorked back into the real world, including Wyatt. So I guess Wyatt also got sucked into the fantasy world.
Right, and now there's a question, you know, we were talking about how does this thing work. Phoebe's not sure how it works either, so she doesn't know if Jason isn't with her because he's dead when he was, like, shot and lying there dying, or maybe he's back at work and that was a fake Jason. She doesn't know if that was the real Jason or not that got shot.
Spoiler alert, it was a fake Jason that got shot.
Yep.
So Piper calls Leo, you know, to make sure they're back in the real world. Leo shows up. Chris is dying on the floor, and Piper's like, heal Wyatt, he has a fever. Also, Chris is dying. And
Chris is like, this is the dynamic that has already given me issues.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect summation of the of Piper and Leo's attitudes towards their two sons. Once Chris is an actual baby, do not expect things to get better for him, as opposed to the giant man baby he is right now.
Poor Chris.
Poor Chris. But yes, Leo heals Wyatt and he heals Chris. Also, we didn't mention it earlier, but Piper has a finger injury that she wouldn't let Leo heal because normal life.
Yep, she cut it with a knife in the kitchen, not fighting demons, so she has to suffer, which is such a martyr thing. Oh my god, Piper. So
Leo and Piper talk about how, like...
this is all Chris's fault.
Well, Leo talks about how it's all Chris's fault, and Piper's like, give him a break. He was, like, trying, right? Like... he was trying to do it, and you're putting him on trial for murder or whatever, and he's still trying to do his job, so... have you thought about maybe chilling the fuck out?
I mean, this isn't Leo's job anymore. He gave this job up. He does need to stay out of Chris's way and stop trying to micromanage the way that Chris wants to white light.
But Piper does yield a little bit. She's like, look, you can heal my finger, and, like, maybe it wouldn't be terrible to have you around all the time, even though that's the opposite of the thing I said last episode, or the episode before, I don't know. It's been all over the place. But Chris shows up in Leo's... Sorry. Did Leo and Chris have their little thing there, where Leo canceled the trial?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Chris walks into the room and he's like, so I guess I need to go in front of the White Lighter Council and be put to death or whatever. And Leo's like, you did such a good job this week that I decided to cancel the trial for kidnapping me.
It's not for kidnapping him, it's for killing the Valkyrie. And then he gives Chris the Valkyrie pendant so that there's no evidence anymore.
Yay.
Nothing like destroying some evidence.
And
Phoebe goes to see Jason and
before that, Piper has a kind of nice little moment with Chris where she's like, look, I understand that you're just trying to keep us safe, and I'm sorry we're making your job harder than it needs to be. We need to remember that, staying safe isn't just about us, it's also about you, because it would be a huge bummer if, we died for you. And Chris is like, yeah, it would be a really huge bummer if any of you, but especially you, Piper Halliwell, died.
Yep.
If you die, I'm going to just say...
won't be the best thing for me.
Yes, before the next 12 months or so pass, then it will go poorly for me. Yes.
Phoebe goes to see Jason. He's still alive. It was a different Jason. It's all good.
Wah wah.
She tells him that as far as mixed signals go, she wants him to know that she kind of likes him and wants to spend time with him, but not for him to go overboard, but a little overboard, but not totally overboard. And then they make us out into credits.
So we talked around this episode a lot, but honestly, this was a really fun episode. I was not expecting much given the premise, but I had a really good time with this one.
I was thoroughly enjoying myself with this episode. It was just the right amount of ridiculous and serious.
Yeah. All right, so much like the Charmed ones, we have our own power of 3. The first power in our pack is Premonition, who in this episode is, was, or will become famous. I've got one. Do you mind if I lead? I know what yours is going to be.
Sure, go ahead. I have a suspicion what yours is going to be, too.
Yes. The old lady, who was the wife of the magician, is Catherine Jewston, who you might remember as being the old lady in that episode of Scrubs, My Old Lady, where an old lady dies.
I thought that you were going to point out that she's Mrs. Landingham from West Wing.
No, but I'm glad you picked up on what I was doing there, because I was building up to the big thing, which is she was the old lady who's responsible for one of the worst episodes of Buffy, the sex house episode. She was the woman who ran the abusive boarding house that caused horny child ghosts to haunt a frat house in Buffy because she wouldn't let them masturbate. And then vines make everyone horny because Buffy and Riley have been having two... It's like one of the worst episodes of Buffy, but she is in it.
Is it better or worse than Beer Bad?
Honestly, there are bits of Beer Bad I enjoy.
All right.
I'm sorry. It's funny when Cave Buffy hits him with the club at the end of the episode.
I rewatched it wanting to find more good stuff in it then, but you know what's really bad, though, is Teacher's Pet.
Yeah, no, Teacher's Pet is one of the worst.
But it doesn't feel fair to put, season 1 episodes against anything.
I also do really like when Parker's trying his, whole thing on Willow, and she's like, I honestly think less of Buffy because she fell for that. Also, you literally used that story to hook up with my friend. Why would you think that would work on me?
I also have a premonition.
What is your premonition?
I talked about it when it happened, but the excited fan who comes up is Catherine Reitman, who is Maureen Ponderosa from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
The woman with the dead tooth.
I was so excited to see her show up on screen.
I wonder if, because, they have Kate McCucci's character in Raising Hope has a dead tooth, and that's kind of the running gag with her for the first season. And then she gets it fixed at the beginning of the second season, and she references, I was watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and there was a character with a dead tooth, and everyone was making jokes about it. And it occurred to me that our situations were, similar. And I was like, I wonder if they came up with the dead tooth thing independently.
I think they did.
Yeah, on Raising Hope, and then everyone was saying that, so in between seasons, they're like, okay, we're not
No, that's 100% what happened. That's totally what happened.
But, yes, the dead tooth lady from It's Always Sunny.
Maureen Ponderosa.
Yes. That will bring us to the second power in our pack. time freeze, what specifically dated this episode? Actually, I don't really have anything.
This episode was timeless.
MLMs are still a thing. Really, really, really cheap talk shows are still a thing.
Yeah.
I know it's a big deal now, but I saw an early episode of the Kelly Clarkson talk show, and it was her and two ferns, basically.
I feel like this episode is timeless. Yeah.
Yeah. Timeless episode of Charmed.
I said what I said.
And that will bring us to the final power in our pack, telekinesis. What, if anything, genuinely moved you?
Okay, so here's the thing. I feel like it's cheap because, of course, it's going to move you, and therefore I don't want to give it to it. But obviously, sick kid. When your kid is sick and you have that helpless feeling, that made me feel things. But it's such a manipulative thing that I'm angry that I was moved. What's your thing?
My thing is Piper's little conversation with Chris, which we didn't really get into at the end of the episode, where she kind of acknowledges that, like, he is in a really difficult position now, and he legitimately does not have a place in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, she's going to stand up for him against Leo, even though she doesn't need to because Leo canceled the trial. But, like...
Yeah, but he'll always have something to bitch about.
Yeah. But she's like, look, I know that you kind of fucked up today, but you're clearly trying, and I want you to know that we appreciate it, which is nice. It's nice, especially because he did fuck up, but it's nice that she...
From their point of view.
Yes. Well, also from his... He got shot by a dark lighter arrow.
You're right, that probably wasn't part of the plan.
But, like, it's nice to acknowledge that one of the Charmed Ones is acknowledging that someone is really putting their neck out for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's nice that someone in this show is acknowledging the hard work of a different character in this show.
Yes. I thought you were going to say it's good that one of the Charmed Ones is acknowledging the hard work of dealing with the Charmed Ones.
Also, yes.
Next episode that we're going to talk about is Soul Survivor. And the Peacock summary is, Paige discovers her boss has swapped his soul for a successful career. Wyatt engages in sabotage.
Oh, I remember the subplot of this episode. It's Wyatt is interrupting Piper trying to date by using magic.
Oh.
I do not remember the main plot of this at all. Okay.
It sounds like it's going to be another good one. Honestly, I'm excited.
Yeah, let's see if our hot streak continues.
So I think that does it, though, for this week.
Yeah, that'll about do it.
Our show is partially listener-supported. If you want to be one of those supporters, head over to our website, www.welcometotelevision.net, and click on our Patreon link. We'd like to thank our current $5 above patrons, Beryl, Patricia, Rosa, Ryan, Maricruz, Benjamin, Kate, Jen, Dan, and Anthony.
If you'd like to support the show in other ways, you could always rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find the show.
If you want to talk about this episode or any episode of any television show, you can email us at ilovetelevisionzines@gmail.com, or you can find us on Blue Sky at Welcome to Television.
So until next time, I'm Max.
And I'm Tina.
And this has been Welcome to the Halliwell Manor.